Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on an Ambassador reel. This one is the Ambassador 7000i HSN, co-branded as Big Game. This is a reel that's very nice, heavy-duty, well-performing saltwater or deep lake fishing reel. Pretty quality. It's got the aluminum spool on it. It's got the level line drive on it. And it's in for a tune-up. So we're going to take care of that. We'll show you how to take the reel apart, how to service it, clean it up, keep it fishing for a long time to come. Well, if you like these types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting videos. And, well, you can take a look and see if that's a video that would interest you. We got to find the right wrench here. That's always a problem for me, and we'll see what we got. Now, I guess we have an 11mm wrench with a cap, and of course that's the one that's hiding. There we go. I keep all my wrenches and tools close by at hand. I just don't organize them very well. I don't have any kind of thing that would be like a rack or something to keep them all singled out in one way or another. All right, we're going to take the reel apart. To do that, we want to remove the exterior pieces first. That includes this little E-clip here. And usually you can kind of fish that E-clip out with a, well, like this little pointed awl. Sometimes you can use your strength of your hand to do it. That's the clip that comes off. I get a lot of questions. People lose those clips. Where do you find them? I found that there's a pretty close match on those clips if you can't find the ones for the reel. If you just go buy an assortment of them, they're available on our favorite Amazon sites and other places. Just buy a miscellaneous kit of them, and you can usually find one that matches up pretty close. This looks to be an aluminum handle. I think the whole reel overall is trying to be as corrosion resistant as possible. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be cleaning your reels. Quite the contrary, you should be servicing your reels on a regular basis. What's regular? Well, about once a year. If you're using them on an average of 15 to 20 trips a year. If you're doing more than that, you may want to consider kind of servicing them at the midpoint as well. All right, on top of this is a little kind of washer that goes underneath the handle. It sits in a little cavity for that. Then there's a tension washer that comes off next. That's so you don't back off your star adjuster and jam it into your handle and lock it in. And then we can take the star adjuster off. While I'm doing that, I want to encourage you that it's a good practice to take pictures as you disassemble the reel. Now I'm taking pictures with a video, and you can use any kind of imaging device that you have there. You want to use a camera or your computer or iPad or tablet or whatever. And of course traditional SLRs and the like, go right ahead and do that. Those will be very useful for you as you go to reinstall. If you get trapped, if you've forgotten where pieces go, well, that's a great reference point. The other reference point would be the schematics for the reel. And those are generally available on the internet. I think Abu's site itself has a lot of the schematics for their reels. Well, from the inside, there was 2 tension washers that came off. I believe there's 2 more sitting here. That's always a good thing to note as you're taking the pieces off. Well, what's the orientation or the sequence of those washers? So again, when you go to install them again, they're in the same place. Well, this reel was made in China, says so on the bottom of the lip here. I kind of thought so. If you have a reel that doesn't say made in Sweden, chances are that it has not been made in Sweden. So just carefully examine those reels if that's something that you're very much interested in, is having the Swedish version of the reel. Also, I've noticed on the Chinese reels, this badge here is very crisp on the Swedish ones, not so on the ones made in China. So sometimes that's telltale. But if you're interested in buying the ones made in Sweden, then by all means check out what you got before you go much further in the the buying process. All right, well, we cleaned that up, but there's a little bit of kind of residual film that comes from fishing. Probably some salted spray or mist or who knows, fish scales, whatever. So I'm going to use a rod and reel cleaner. The rod and reel cleaner is Penn rod and reel cleaner. I find it works very well. And I use that on a little kitchen scrubby pad, just a section of one, kind of like a Scotch-Brite. And that helps me get off all that debris. Also cleans up the reel. Again, if you're doing this once a year, take the time, make sure that you clean the reel up. No sense rushing through this. It's only 2 or 3 minutes more to clean the pieces, and well, the results make it look like you've spent a lot more time than that doing the reel. All right, we'll do the same thing on the reel seat here. The Scotch-Brite or the kitchen scrubby, this is actually not a Scotch-Brite pad. Has just enough abrasion in it to kind of loosen up the stuff. Okay, well, underneath here, you can take the side plate off if you like. I guess it wouldn't be unfair of me to do that because it is a how to service a reel video. But there's really nothing going on. You have a plastic idler gear that needs to be examined to make sure that it's working fine, but does not need any oil or grease. And you have a bearing underneath. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil into the bearing and a little bit of oil where that click tongue is. That's your noise maker when you have your clicker on. That's all you need to do on that side. We have the spool out, so let's go clean that. Now, if this was a little bit more corroded or showed more dirt and debris or greening, you can amp up the abrasion, but it comes at a price. It'll probably scratch it up, but again, if you've got something that's eaten into the aluminum, then well, you want to stop that from happening. So kind of the lesser of the two evils, if you will. But get that greening off, otherwise it'll just continue to eat at the spool or the cross posts or whatever it may be eating at. We have a little bit of an example of that. There's a little bit of it going on here. I'm just going to use 4/0 steel wool. It's just a little bit more aggressive than that kitchen scrubby. I'll try and wipe that down a little bit. That's better. A little bit on the bottom here. So these reels are nice, and they kind of hold their value. They sell right around $100 for a used one like this. And if you're interested, you can find those on eBay and the like. Well, we want to take the free spool lever off. I think that's one of these oddball 9mm or something. If you don't take that off, you're going to pull the free spool release assembly off when you remove the side plate. So we'll do this, and then we'll give you an inside look at how this reel is made. Maybe you're working on one and took it apart and didn't take pictures and try to figure out how the inside goes. Well, this will be your chance to see that. Okay. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go in a parts tray. I use a fast food container. You can organize your pieces and parts any way you like, but you should have a plan for what you're going to do with your pieces and parts. There's a little plastic washer that sits here. I want to get that off. It's hard to see that, but see if I can put it there. There's a plastic washer. Make sure you remove that as you go to remove the side plate. And now what we need to do is we need to remove the two screws that are holding the side plate to the ridge assembly. That's one. Every now and then folks ask what this screwdriver is. It's actually an electrician's screwdriver. I like it. It's got the rubber shield on it. Of course, that's for avoiding sparking when you're inside of an electric box or something. I like it because it enables you to grip the shaft and kind of twist it like I've been doing. You'll see when you take those two out that everything pops up. And on the pop-up on the inside, we have one more of these little thrust washers or tension washers or bell washers. And this is why you want to service a reel. Even though the outside of the reel look clean, we've got all kinds of dirt and debris on the inside of this. These are not sealed reels, so you should expect to find some old greases and the like, but particularly on the conventional reels, well, salt has a way of getting in here, so there's all kinds of dirt and the like, and that's because the spool floats free inside the case. So right at the seams of the spool is where your water is going to enter on your other debris. Okay, well, we've cleaned that side up good. Note on this one we have a big washer that's going to go on the inside of this when we go to reinstall. It's actually going to go over this metal washer that's sitting here on that release. Move both of these. Take the two springs out. Just find a place in my parts trace for both of these. Then we can remove the yoke and the pinion gear, and we can remove the whole bridge assembly. This has a backup anti-reverse dog. This one has an anti-reverse clutch as well. Here's what I was referring to before. If you somehow have popped this assembly off, that is the way it is set for free spool. Just going to soak this down, do the cleanup. I do not generally remove that free spool assembly unless there's reason to think that there's dirt or something trapped under there. I'm not seeing evidence of that. If you've taken this reel apart and you're wondering how that spring goes on the free spool jack, kind of goes around that point and rests inside the post. Also, you have a little retention spring on this side. So right now this is in the engage mode. And I'm using a paper towel just to wipe the balance down. This has got some nice quality parts in it. Some folks wonder why this tooth section here, the two levers, were not metal. I don't think it matters much. I don't think that anybody was taking economies with this or anything. Just think that it's probably a little bit more flexible, has a little bit more give when it's time to mesh. All right, we're cleaning out the yoke assembly. A good time to say if you have any questions about this reel or any reel in particular. If you're working on one, maybe you're stuck, maybe you want to know a little bit more about the history, maybe you're just curious about the manufacturer of it, whatever. If you leave those in the comment section, I will try to answer those questions for you instead of one of those kitchen scrubbies gets stuck to my brush. You want to make sure that the teeth on the gear are clean and free of debris. I notice that there's a little bit going on in here, so I'm going to use a pick to just slide into the teeth here. Make sure that all of that gets out of there. You have two sides of the yoke assembly. This is the face side, the one that's completely flat. You'll see that there's two ramps on the back, and that goes towards the spool. On your pinion gear, you have slots on one side and a flat on the other. The slots are where it's going to intersect with your spool, so that faces forward when you go to install, or spool side. So let's put that back together now. The ramps and the slots facing forward. You can take that and put those over the two posts. Turn myself around on that. And just sit that there for a moment. Okay, we have our main gear assembly. And again, so much of the cleaning inspection, placing of the parts. That's what the real repair is all about. There's nothing fancy going on here. It's a process that you can follow across any reel that you choose to take on. Just have an organized process to do it, and you'll be pretty successful upon completion. I think the biggest thing is problem diagnosis. The other thing I believe would be parts management, making sure you know where your pieces and parts are. All right, we've inspected the click ratchet. This is your anti-reverse dog. It has 2 fingers, one on each side of that ratchet. That's how it goes in, and the beak goes onto one of those insets. These are almost brand new washers in here. Do the same thing we did with the main gear that we did with the pinion gear. Got a little bit of there's a washer underneath here that's going to ride on this thin lip here. Inspect your teeth. These are clean. There's nothing brush out or anything. Get an amount of grease on here. I'm using fishing reel grease. I only recommend that you use fishing reel grease. In this case, it's Penn Precision reel grease. I'm not particular to any manufacturer's brands, but I do recommend that you use fishing reel grease. These are Carbon Tex washers. You can use these dry, or you can use these with some lubrication. That's your choice. These appear to have been run dry, so we'll run them dry. There's one washer that has a bigger hole in it in the center than the other. That's the first one in. Now we're going to put this onto the bridge post. But before we do that, we want to wipe away the old grease on there. Put a little fresh coat, not a lot, just a little bit. And then reset the main gear. And your dog goes onto the lower post. You can check that right now. Give it a turn. Let's see if it pulls in. It's pulling in. It's doing what it should be doing. Okay, we put the wide one in. You have 2 different thicknesses on the keyed washers. The keyed washers are the ones with the rectangular center. The thinnest one goes on the bottom. And we can take our second washer. Then this is called the eared washer. It has 2 points on each side. That goes in the middle of the stack. Then we have our last drag washer. And we have the thicker of the 2 keyed washers go up top. And then this is the collar for the anti-reverse. And that goes on next. Just like that. So that's how you finish the inner gear assembly. And I'm guessing the only thing I want to do here, just want to move this free spool over so that I can seat the yoke assembly. It's easier when you do it that way because we have to put those springs into the center. And put the 2 springs on. Then the next step, we have that metal flex washer. And we have this bigger plastic washer that sits over that flex washer. Now when we do this now, we're going to want to make sure that we push this in when we're loading our case. Actually, we can probably push it in now. You want the tension off of that case when you go to reinstall. Well, while everything's off on this side, let's go ahead and do the same thing we were doing before with the cleaning. This still has some residual rod and reel cleaner on it. So go ahead and buff down this side, making sure that you can make it as nice as you can. Again, it'll be a while before you get to clean it again, so take the opportunity to do that here. That cleans up nicely. There's some scratches on this. That's normal wear and tear. All right, to reinstall then, we're looking for a couple of things. This has got to go over the post here. This has got to go over the free spool release. Let's go ahead and put that down. Kind of aim for both. And then remember, we've got to push this little piece back in, just like that. When you do that now, make sure that your seam is nice and tight all the way around. Don't leave any gaps in there. If there's a gap in there, something's wrong, stop, reset it. We want to take our 2 screws that are going to hold the side case on, get those in there now. Overall, the 7000 series is designed for deep water. It's designed either for inshore ocean, surf casting, or deep lakes, Great Lakes, or any deep lakes that you may be accustomed to going to. It's also become quite a catfish reel. I know there's a lot of aficionados out there love the catfish with these. And they come in the 2 versions. They come in with and without the Love of Wine guide. All right, I'm going to put our free spool release back on. I put the little plastic washer underneath. So now we'll just go ahead and put that tie down screw or nut back in. Guess it's a screw. If you drop pieces and parts, just stop, take a breath, do it again. Me and little screws don't get along all the time. Kind of tells me it's time to take a laugh. Funny thing, I'm looking at this. This has the scraping going on the case, but it's got the little plastic washer as well, so I'm not quite sure how that case gets scraped up like that. I'm just walking this through now. This is a 9mm wrench that I'm using. I'm trying to hold that on to the shoulders of the switch. As soon as I let go. Alright, just about done with that. Just checking to make sure that I still have it over the shoulder. Well, with any luck, that's the answer there now. Okay, I've taken a moment to insert the spool, degrease both sides of the shaft. Now we'll take that side plate, load that on. Make sure that you have a nice tight seam all the way around the side plate, and then start hand tightening your screws. I recommend that you hand tighten, one, because they have these little knurled surfaces on them and you can do that. And secondly, you don't risk cross-threading those screws when you install. Okay, once you pretty much have done that, you can finish the tightening with your screwdriver. And we're almost done with this reel. So it's a nice example of an Abu reel. This is in the Ambassador line. There's bigger ones. There's the 9,000, there's the 10,000. There's others, but this one's a nice general purpose reel all around. All right, next up then is our star adjuster. Do the same thing here. There's a little bit of cleaning that can be done here. Again, it's an aluminum piece. That's nice. The only problem I've seen with the aluminum pieces on these is that every now and then the little forks on these star adjusters bend in, and that's usually because they get hit on something. Make sure you're going in square when you're loading this. If it's not going square, stop and reset. If you're having trouble, just grab the post. You can also use the handle as a wrench at this point. Okay, next up then is our handle. Oh, not the handle. Our little tension washer. That sits there. And this is the one that's going to go in the cavity of the handle. I'll show you that in a moment, but that goes right onto the post. In the back of the handle, that's the cavity that it will ride in. Set that over. Next up is the E-clip. Let's get that into the slots. Sometimes you can just push it in with finger strength. I was able to do that here. And our handle nut cap. This time around I left the wrench on the bench so I didn't have to go searching for it. Make sure you tighten down your star adjuster so that you don't trap that as you're tightening for the handle. And now we have that little tie-down retention cap. Generally, if that flat side is facing the hole, you can get these in. Sometimes you can't. Let's find out. The nice thing about a nut cap like this is, well, I got it pretty close there, didn't I? If you need to adjust it, you can leave that on, and you can just use the wrench over it, tighten it down a little bit. Here's our tie-down screw. Conveniently located in the parts tray. And we'll just put this in, we'll be able to give the reel a test. I'm having trouble with that, so I'm going to use a screw starter here. I don't finish tightening down with a screw starter because that's a split ring device. So there we have it. Okay. Well, let's. We should be in click mode here. One thing we didn't do, so let's do that now. We got to service the pawl. To service the pawl, we want to remove the cap and the pawl. Generally speaking, if you just tap on the reel, the pawl will come out, unless it's terribly stuck. This is your pawl. You want to take that out because pawls tend to get a lot of dirt right on this shoulder here. I'm seeing enough of it that over time that could become a problem with the performance of the reel. Once you do that, a little drop of oil in the cavity before you go ahead and do the rest. Put some oil onto the worm gear. I'm going to use pliers because my fingers are a little bit big for this. Load the pawl back in. And then what you want to do is hold the bottom of the pawl, turn the reel. That should suck the pawl into where it's flat. Just driving it over to the side so I have the ability to go get this. And just re-put the cap back on.